Pushing a machine to 320 kilometers per hour means firing a 400-ton projectile through an open, populated environment. Since its inauguration in 1964, the Japanese Shinkansen network has transported billions of passengers without a single fatality due to a derailment or collision. The physics dictate that this flawless record should be impossible. Metals fatigue, tracks warp under extreme stress, and at these velocities, the smallest deviation from the rails guarantees a catastrophe. Holding that kinetic energy to the rail requires an invisible logic of control, a system rooted in 19th century engineering. To see how that safety was actually built, we have to look back at the chaos of the first railways, where the earliest failsafes were devised in the aftermath of disaster. In October 1829, Robert Stephenson brought his new locomotive to the Rainhill Trials, a competition designed to test whether steam engines could reliably haul heavy loads over long distances. Stephenson won the trials by redesigning how a machine breathes. His locomotive, the Rocket, routed hot exhaust gases from the firebox through 25 copper fire tubes submerged directly in the boiler water. Working alongside a blast pipe to continuously pull air through the fire, this generated enough steam pressure to propel the machine to 30 miles per hour. That sustained velocity proved that heavy, mechanized transport over iron rails was viable at scale. But while these engines could now accelerate into the distance, there was no infrastructure to tell them what was waiting around the next curve. Stephenson had mastered the engine, but the problem of coordinating traffic remained unsolved. Early railway networks operated blindly. Drivers steered their locomotives across the countryside, entirely on the assumption that the tracks ahead were clear, based strictly on a paper timetable. This British Railways training diagram shows the manual day signals of the 1830s. A railway policeman would hold these poses to enforce a strict 5 to 10 minute waiting period between trains under the time interval system. The vulnerability was built right into the concept. If the leading train broke down mid-journey, out of sight of the station, that 10-minute buffer disappeared. The following driver had no way of knowing a stationary wall of iron was in their path until they saw it. Using time to separate objects in physical space is a mathematical trap. In 1840, when a train broke down near South Wingfield, the following train simply maintained its scheduled timetable and crashed squarely into the rear carriage. The solution required shifting focus from time to space. Using the newly invented electric telegraph, engineers divided the physical track into fixed geographic sections, known as blocks. The rule of the absolute block system was strict. Only one train is ever permitted to occupy a specific block of track at any given moment. A train cannot enter the next section until the telegraph confirms the previous block is entirely empty. This diagram illustrates the slotted post 3-position semaphore introduced in 1841. This hardware communicated the status of the block directly to the driver, using mechanical levers and wires. But the system still relied on a visible indication, and signals could lie. In the winter of 1876 at Abbott's Ripton, severe snow accumulated on the semaphore arms. The weight of the ice pulled the signals down into a false clear position, routing a speeding express train straight into a stalled coal train. That tragedy forced a redesign of the hardware. Engineers deployed the upper quadrant signal, which had to be actively pushed up to show a clear path. If a wire snapped or snow piled up, gravity naturally dragged the arm back down to danger. They paired this with mechanical interlocking inside the signal boxes, a complex iron puzzle that physically jammed the levers, preventing a signalman from mistakenly routing two trains onto the same path. By combining the geographic certainty of the block system with the physics of gravity and interlocking iron, they built an environment where the mechanical architecture itself prevented human mistakes. Which brings us back to the 320 km/h reality of the modern Shinkansen network. As these bullet trains cross the Japanese landscape, they are still following the core logic of the 19th century absolute block system, now executed by digital supercomputers. Modern digital interlocking serving the exact same fail-safe function as those Victorian levers. It ensures that no two trains can ever be routed into the same physical space, automatically cutting power if a train encroaches on its boundary. While we focus on visible advancements in propulsion and aerodynamics, our safety still depends on the invisible systems of control that hold that raw power in check.